Hey, what the hell are you doing walking around dressed like Star Wars?
It's Comic-Con, you idiot. We're going to the Javits Center.
Well, you're the idiots, because you three guys would never be walking together.
Yeah, you're his boss, and you two guys are enemies.
Yeah, bite me, Captain Kirk.
Hey, Mo, come on. No, that's Star Trek.
Yeah, that's two different franchises.
Yeah, sorry, guys. She doesn't know.
Nah, it's okay. I'm sorry you have to deal with that.
Let's go.
Oh, hey, come on. It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. Not worth it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fanzone Debate. We are here for an exciting rematch. We got Richard Schwartz going up against Alex Martinez. These two played last season. Alex walked away with the win. Can Richard redeem himself, come back to win with a vengeance? Or will Alex get the number 2 on Richard? We'll find out. Both these guys really good at this, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens, if last time was a fluke or if it was just like what we're saying. They're both really good at it, and it could be anybody's game and whatever. So let's go find out. We're just going to get into it, but first I want to thank Mark and Payson for being here. Thanks, guys. They're the judges with me today, and we're going to go get right into the game. Here's how it's going to work. Richard and Alex drafted some categories. Then we gave them questions based on those categories. Then they're going to debate those questions tonight before our very souls. So they're each going to get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing. At the end of the debate, Mark, Payson, and I will write on our handy dandy boards who we thought won the debate. If you get 2 out of 3 votes, you win a point, and the first player to hit 3 points wins the match. Alex, Richard, any questions as we kick this one off?
Nope, just happy to be here. Alex, let's do this again. Pleasure.
All right, let's do it. Okay, we are going to kick this off with the first question, which was drafted by Richard in the category of the MCU. Your question is, who is the best character in Phase 1 of the MCU? Richard, because you drafted this, you get to go first. You have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
The best character of the MCU in Phase 1 has to be Captain America. This was Steve Rogers, who, as a young person, wanted to fight in the war, to help his country, to help stop bullies from all over the world. And he got his chance, even though he had certain disabilities, like he was underweight and everything in the world. And he got eventually a chance to get the super soldier serum and became Captain America, who saved not only during his people during World War II, but then he sacrificed himself to go into the ice and frozen into our decade. Why he's the best MCU character is because he's always been who he has been before and after his powers. And I'm going to continue the rest after my argument's done. And I can concede the rest of my time like I always do.
Okay, sounds good. So ending about 5 seconds early, we're going to move over to Alex. Alex, you have 1 minute to open when you start talking.
Phase 1 of the MCU was about getting audiences familiar with big characters that could, in theory, carry the weight of an entire cinematic universe for years to come. Between Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, the pressure was on to build connections between the general movie public and the characters that go back 40, 60, or a couple thousand years. Among these, it would make sense that the one with the most history would also be the most interesting to talk about. Thor not only pulls from centuries of mythology, but also some of our most classic plays and storytelling ideas. The classics, The Lost Prince, Falling from Grace, Pulling the Magical Weapon from Stone, and of course, I Just Can't Wait to Be King. Yes, it is very adaptational. Call it Shakespearean if you want. Just do me a favor and call Thor the best character in the MCU Phase 1, and I'll concede the rest of the time.
Wow, both exactly on the 5-second mark. Gentlemen, you are now going to get into the 5-minute free form. I will throw up the 1-minute warning when the time comes. If one of you is talking too much, talking over your opponent, being rude, I'm going to throw up the let your opponent talk. Don't make me do that. Nick Tuig has GPS. I will send him to you. He will find you. 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
Since it's my turn, I'll go first because I think you're letting me go first. But all the things you just said in your opening statement has nothing to do with the character in MCU. You're talking about the whole mythology of the whole world. But I will just say Thor was only the Thor we know in future phases is because his father sent him to another world. If he didn't do that, he would still be the arrogant prince that would have caused any war and would have caused more destruction. Steve Rogers has always been Steve Rogers before even the super soldier serum.
And that's really my problem with Steve Rogers, is that before and after getting the serum, he's still Steve Rogers' perfect human. I think that flaws that like Thor has, and Steve has flaws, but there's not as many of them. I think that's what makes a character good. And Thor just has more of them. He's not someone that you're super inclined to like. He's royalty. He's some kind of cosmic deity kind of being. He comes from a position of privilege. And he still has to be likable. He still gets us to like him. And he does it by being funny, by being personable, by learning and adapting to us. That's what proves him worthy.
Okay, when you're saying Steve doesn't have any flaws, his whole physical being, his body, was a flaw. He could not stand up to anyone. He was getting beaten every day, but still was unwilling to give up to protect those that needed to be protecting. Thor had no personality in the first phase of first phase of the MCU. He was very bland. He didn't get his personality until Thor Ragnarok, which was phase 3. And again, like I said, Thor only became the Thor, the good battle warrior, the great Avenger that we know today, is because his father sent him to another world. If he didn't get sent to another world, he would be that arrogant person that probably caused the Earth destruction because he didn't care about people. He only cared about victory. Steve Rogers wasn't just Captain America because of his powers. Captain America was Steve because of who Steve was. You can't say the same about Thor.
No, and that's well, I don't know that that's true, but like here's the thing. Steve gains. He overwhelmingly gains. He even when he was a small guy, his body was not cooperating with the kind of hero that he wanted to be. He was still a hero. He was still telling off people in movie theaters, telling them not to talk. That's who Steve is as a character, right? That is Steve's character, and it's very good. But Thor is the one that is learning. Thor is the one that is changing. Steve is very static. Steve, for a lot of the phase 1 after his movie, is kind of in the background, stuck being the foil to these other characters. But Thor is an active agent. Excuse me?
Give me an example.
Sure. So when Thor comes back to Earth, because he had left Earth, he comes back at great personal cost to get his brother. Steve's like, oh God, I just found out about this for the first time. Neat. But Thor is constantly learning about us. He is constantly learning about our customs, and he has to change to become worthy of his powers that he had that lost, that he has to regain, not by being the same character that he was before, but by being a better version of that character.
Okay, I'm going to argue with you saying neat. He did not say neat. He didn't even interact with the first time Captain America met Thor was in the Avengers movie, and he cautioned Tony to not advise anything was going on, and he stopped Thor from Iron Man from battling.
But he has no reaction to learning that these sort of cosmic beings exist.
But saying, oh, neat. No, like saying, oh, cool. No, he was being very cautious and, making sure everyone is okay and not judging one person's, a person's thing from when they meet. Like when Thor, landed on the copter, he could have thought he was an enemy. He did not. He just wanted to be patient and figure out everything in advance, where Thor would have just attacked everybody.
The thing with Captain for me is that he doesn't really wait. Is Tim on screen? The thing. Okay, sorry.
Okay. All right. We are going to start with Alex for closings. You have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
As much as I love when American men gain the ability to punch, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, doesn't really give it his all in Phase 1. He's stuck being Steve Rogers, uncomplicated good guy until much later in the timeline. Thor is allowed to be messy right away. And flaws are the foundation of characters. You cannot deny that shifting between wanting to end the Frost Giants and crown himself king to wholesale stopping his brother's subjugation of Earth and denying himself the crown is what we classically can call character growth. Thor jumps through more time, loses and gains more power, and along the way he sheds the parts of himself that are classically negative to become a better, truer hero. The best character in the MCU. Cap is just too stationary. He stays being the exact same person before, during, and after. Like Erskine says, good becomes great.
Time. Okay, let's go over to Richard. Richard, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
We're not talking about who is the strongest Avenger in Phase 1. We're talking about who is the best Avenger. And the best Avenger is not only one of the most powerful people, it's one person that is be able to become a leader to realize what things, people who are good and people who are bad. And Steve has always been Steve, regardless of the super soldier serum or not. He could have attacked Thor when he first landed to take Loki, or to judge him as an evil villain. He did not. He realized there could be something more to him. He realized he has strategy. He is a military soldier, and more importantly, he has a great heart. Thor is only Thor of what we know today is because his father banished him. Thor would have annihilated Captain America and probably innocent people just for victory. That can't make him the best Avenger. Captain America is the best Avenger in Phase 1 because he is who he is. End of my statement.
Okay. Let's bring in the judges. If I can. Come on, mouse. There we go. That was weird. Okay. All right.
Question for Mark and Tim: do you guys keep notes? And
It depends on if I'm not as experienced in the subject matter. Yes.
Fair.
If it's something like this, no.
Oh, fair. I was going to ask. So for something like this, I'm guessing you needed a ton of notes.
Okay. I'll go first. Good fight. Great characters, both. I was expecting people to throw around Lokis and Iron Mans, and we got some Caps and Thors, people I like. So good shit. I went with Alex. I thought that both did a good job of telling me why their characters are great characters. Richard really leaned into the positivity, the great person that Steve is, and how he translates that into a great hero once he does get the serum, but also before he has the serum. And Alex painted the picture of a flawed character that is great because of the journey that he takes from beginning to end. And I thought that Alex's attacks, though I disagree with them about Steve being a stationary character that doesn't really grow or do anything, worked against Richard's argument. And I thought Richard's argument of like, well, we would only see Thor the way that he is by the end of the Avengers if Odin had done that. And Alex was very smart to be like, yeah, well, that's part of his character. That's part of what makes him great and part of what makes him a good character. So he kind of took Richard's entire argument and dismantled it. So against Thor. So I went with Alex. Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, I also went with Alex. For kind of a lot of the same reasons that you said, Tim. I think kind of when we get into the main bit of it, it's like, well, Steve Rogers is the best character because like he's a good guy who's always been good, and then like we get into Thor, like he's the one who has changed the most, like in that one, which like it's tough to argue about that. And I don't know if I just heard enough from Richard to kind of fight that argument, other than because I did hear a lot of his point of he wouldn't be that way unless Odin banished him, but like Alex brought up, that's part of the character development. So yeah, that it was tough to go the other way on that one.
Okay, Payson, your thoughts?
Yeah, this would have been a clean sweep. I also went Alex. Yeah, I think just going off what you guys said, I think Richard Richard painted the picture of why Captain America might have been the best Avenger in Phase 1, but the question asked who is not the best Avenger, who is the best character, and I think Alex painted a better picture for me why Thor's flaws and why where he starts and where he ends makes for a more interesting character throughout the first phase of the MCU. I love both these characters, but I think Alex had a great point of just had me think I think Captain America really grows into his own in the later phases of the MCU, and Richard just really counter Alex saying that Steve never really shows any real emotional or psychological turmoil, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that means that Alex is up 1-0.
Good job, Alex.
We are going to move on to the second question.
Can you give me 1 second? Just one real quick. I'll be right back.
You're good.
Okay, cool.
We'll be right back. All right, we are going to move on to question number 2. This was drafted by Alex in the category of directors. The question is, which Frank Capra film holds up the best today? Alex, we're kicking it off with you. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Arsenic and Old Lace is a movie about going back home and seeing that things are a little bit weirder than you remember it. You slowly see one man lose his mind because his world is slowly collapsing in on itself. You're an adult now. It's time to let you in on the family baggage. It's really funny, but you can also kind of see it. Having a bad day makes you question things about yourself. Was my childhood really cool, like I remember it? Or are my aunts actually serial killers? Frank Capra made it absurd. And by doing so, he kind of made it timeless. Not because we all have serial killer aunts, but because we all have a family thing. Or probably several family things. Showing a character's one bad day is a staple for a reason. And one of the reasons that Arsenic and Old Lace is the Capra movie that holds up best.
Okay. All right. We're going to move over to Richard. Richard, you now have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
It's a Wonderful Life started off with a young George Bailey who saves his brother from drowning from a sled accident, which could end it badly. Fast forward later on in the years, he stops his boss from accidentally poisoning another kid because he found out his son died of influenza. And then we fast forward into the future, where George Bailey, as good as a person as he is, made one mistake-ish, lost some money, and was contemplating on taking his life until an angel Clarence granted his wish of him never being born, and he realized what would happen if he realized he was never been born. The mistakes he had, lost his wife, his children, his family. That is way more timeless and what we can keep it into our minds than anything else. And I'll explain more into the argument. I concede my time with 2 seconds.
I was about to say. All right, guys. 5 minute free form when one of you starts talking.
You first.
I'm famously not a fan of It's a Wonderful Life. And I think part of it is that it's kind of stuck in this in this specific time period, right? I don't love the notion of the great man. Like, if this guy is removed from history, then it all falls to bits and pieces. I don't really ascribe to that. That's like a big part of It's a Wonderful Life.
But in his eyes, he was never the great man. He was just a kid, a teen, a guy living his life with so many self-doubts. that he didn't realize how much impact he had to the people he was close to, or even people around him. Whereas your character, your had just such an outrageous like concept where it's like a lot of people in the movies, like in the future, have had this, but not in that degree. But because it's an outrageous concept that anyone can come up with, there
Yeah,
is a reason
exactly.
why "It's a Wonderful Life" has continued to live on during Christmas time and years around.
Specifically during Christmas time, though, not many people watch It's a Wonderful Life in like June. And I think a part of that is because it's so set. People want that simplicity that if they are removed from history, the people around them will be cosmically different. If you take out this guy, people will be dead. And that's just not true for most people. Like he's not a doctor from memory. He's like a guy. He's like a very rich, like a fairly wealthy guy, but he's not someone that if you on average remove from history, several people would still be with us.
Okay, but you're saying that it's only example at Christmas time, but no one's ever talking about your movie. No one's ever talked like there's no inspiration for your movie ever. There has been Saturday Night Live, Family Guy, Simpsons, so many spoofs of my movie because the inspiration is so powerful. And just because his father was I wouldn't even say wealthy. He owned a bank. He was never wealthy himself. He was always struggling with his purpose in life, whereas your character just happened upon like his crazy family, which no one can relate to. Everyone can relate to self-doubt in my film, nothing into yours.
I disagree. I think that a character kind of going back home and seeing that, like, oh, that, leaving home and then coming back, oh, things were different than I remember I remember these relationships being different. I think that's actually very relatable. I think that one thing that you said is, you said that like shows take, all these shows take inspiration from It's a Wonderful Life. And that's true, but like a lot of those shows did so years and years ago. Like I remember when I was a kid, that '70s show was doing It's a Wonderful Life episode. And that's something, and like that '70s show was supposed to be set a long time ago. And even then, that I think that episode was produced in the '90s and 2000s, so it's not relatively modern. Whereas characters trapped in a house, that is a constant genre, whether you be talking about something like Bodies, 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 or Abigail. Like people having very bad days is a very real genre in film still.
But what you just said proves my point. The question is, which movie holds up today? And the fact that you brought up something in the 90s
Yeah, it's
proves
the
my point
'90s by
that it
way
still
of the
hold up today.
'70s. It's not
What
something that
movie
people
has
are
hold up to
doing
your
now.
movie to date? There has been still moves. Family Guy was in the late 90s, early 2000s. Bring it. Saturday Night Live always brings this up with my message, my movie. Yours is just a crazy concept that has been it was ideally in maybe some other sitcoms have come and adapted, but you have improved why your film holds up today.
No, I'm
Because not
saying the
everyone can hold up
genre.
to your
I'm
movie
saying
standard.
the genre holds up, and the jokes hold up, and the concept holds up. That we're still making movies like this when we're not really remaking It's a Wonderful Life that often.
Time. Okay. Let's go to Richard first. Richard, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
The point is, which movie of Frank's held up today? Which movie proves that someone who has self-doubt of who he is and what his life brings, when if he ever did not exist, could impact the rest of his world? That has been time and time again in many things. Alex's movie choice is an interesting movie, a fun movie, a concept. but there's no way realistic that could hold up today because not everyone has a crazy aunt or family member that will murder everyone. Not everyone could be that person. It's a Wonderful Life has been told many times in spoofs in SNL, Family Guy, Simpsons, everywhere around the world because the message of self-worth still holds today. And I stand by that. I concede the rest of my time with 3 seconds.
My God. All right. Let's go over to Alex. Alex, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
It's a Wonderful Life is a very specific kind of, I'd say, old school. That's why people watch it at Christmas. They want that kind of comforting simpleness. The kind of thing that 70s show does an episode on, but it's not super common now. But movies about characters having a very bad day will always work because everyone has one bad day. The misunderstanding, secrets, lies, they all pick up in this avalanche and it gets worse and worse. Arsenic and Old Lace is like watching someone step on rake after rake after rake, or catch every single red light when they're already late for work. Something like that has happened to you, so you can laugh at and with the character. That's what gives it a timelessness that it can't.
Okay. Let's bring in the judges.
I'm jealous of that collection, by the way, Tim. Just letting you know. Alex, it's been fun. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Richard, stop being so nice. He's your enemy. You must destroy him. All right. I'm ready. You guys look ready. Payson, you're kicking us off on this one.
Yeah, I think this fight was very interesting. Not necessarily how I would have argued it, but that's not why I'm here. I think one player was arguing which movie is the most relatable, and one player was arguing which movie holds up the best. And that is why I'm personally going to go with Alex. I think Alex hit some really good points on, that family drama we've all sort of dealt with. We've all the classic plight of seeing characters have like one bad day after another. We can all relate to that comedy, and I think he did a really great job of bringing up when Richard started showing examples of in Family Guy or in other TV shows. They've all parodied It's a Wonderful Life, and Alex did a great job of saying, yeah, but those all happened in like the 90s and the 2000s. It's the 2020s. This is the present. That's kind of the past. And I think Alex did a great job, and Richard didn't really have an argument for that. Although I will say I do think Richard did a great job of shutting down Alex's argument of people only really watch this on Christmas, which didn't really work for me. And Richard just said, well, that's still kind of a universal story. So, but yeah, I go with Alex.
Okay, I went with Richard. I thought Richard did a good job on this one, and so did Alex. But I thought that Payson's right. They kind of took this in two different directions. I think I didn't expect to hear them talk about like the relatability of like this is something that like everyone like relates to, and that's why it holds up. It's not because of the technical look of it or the story, or it's more just like the little beats and stuff that like are relatable and the characters and stuff. And I thought Richard's closing especially was really strong of saying like everyone's got the self-doubt, everyone's got this. And I agree with Payson, like shutting down the Christmas argument. I thought was good. Alex, it was close, to be clear. Like Alex did a really good job of kind of taking it in the other direction of being like, they still make movies with this concept, but he even admitted at one point, like, I'm not really arguing for the movie. I'm arguing for the genre and the thing and the that. And I was like, well, I want to hear things like from your movie that make it relatable today. And I thought Richard just did more of that, but I totally get why Payson voted the other way. So, Mark, you're deciding this one.
start off with HUS stealing a point from the other guys category. Oh yeah, I was with Richard. Yeah, I think we could probably talk about that, but I feel like relatability kind of holds up, kind of part of the same cake, pie, whatever you want.
Sure.
Like it, and I really like Alex's argument, honestly, for Arsenical Lace of like, oh, this feeling of coming back home and like things just are not quite right. I think like that. I think is a neat concept to go off of, and like that is something that I think every person goes through at some point. I just feel like it's really hard to come at that and then go up against It's a Wonderful Life, which is about something that is, I think it's just such a universal theme, and that Richard just kind of hammered in this entire fight, especially with, even though like some of these things may have been, a little bit ago, everybody has parodied it, like it's everywhere.
Yeah. I will say though, I agree with Alex. It's Wonderful Life is not that great. Okay. Run away. It's not my favorite movie. I saw it for the first time when I was like 23, and I was like, man. Yeah. Okay. So we're moving on. We are all tied up, one apiece. We're moving on to the third question, which was drafted by Richard in the category of sports. Question is, what is the best hockey moment in a Mighty Ducks film? Richard, you're kicking it off. You got 1 minute when you start talking.
This is really hard. The Mighty Ducks movies franchise have had so many great moments, but I'm going back to the original one, the final shootout. Charlie Banks of the Mighty Ducks versus the goalie of the Hawks. Gordon Bombay gives a most powerful message telling Charlie, no matter whether you win or lose, I am proud of you. And his moment, the whole journey of the movie leads up to this moment where Charlie does win the game for the Mighty Ducks, become the miracle team, the Minnesota Miracles. And I will tell you why that is way better than my opponent's choice in the final round. I concede the rest of my time. Way more than I thought.
Yes, you have shook me to my core. 15 seconds early. We're going over to Alex. Alex, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
I don't know if you can tell by the Yu-Gi-Oh shirt, but I'm not a sports fan. So the Mighty Ducks series was more intense than I thought for movies about kids hockey. I know for a lot of kids, sports is a formative experience, and getting to a big game is a dream. And the Ducks got a lot of success at the city, the state, and international level, with their biggest win coming against Iceland in the Junior Goodwill Games. In that game where they had to fight the biggest odds against what looked like grown men playing 13-year-olds and a coach who actually had big league playing experience, the Ducks still came out on top using a combination of scouting the enemy team, fielding your best players in their proper positions to maximize minimal odds of success. And they did so in the most exciting way possible for hockey, the shootout. I put to you now that the best hockey moment is the final shootout in D2, the Mighty Ducks.
All right. Quack, quack, motherfucker. Let's do it. 5 minute free form, and one of you starts talking.
All right, I'll go first because we've been fairly good with that. But you haven't been a sports fan, it's unfair. But yours shootout was the same as mine. It was a shootout. But the main problem with your movie is because they used basically the original movie of my players in my movie in my shootout. And that is a problem. Like, they introduced 4 or 5 new players of the D2, which, by the way, Julie Gaffney was the best goalie over Goldberg. But they didn't introduce her till basically the end, and one time in the middle where she got immediately eliminated, which does not institute a best put out because she was the best goalie to win the game.
I'm glad you said it. She was the best goalie. And that's kind of my point, is that if we're arguing the best hockey moment, sending out your player, in your movie, he sends out the poor kid, Charlie, who is not their best player, but he has, he has a bit of skill, but he's not their best player. he sends him out and says, son, 50-50, you win it or you don't. It's fine. Just have fun. Right? Against Iceland, they were like trying to win an international competition. That's just inherently bigger. Charlie had a penalty shot, 50-50. Against Iceland, it was a full shootout, 5-on-5. The odds of winning that against a bigger, stronger, better team are just worse.
Okay, I'm going to bring you back. It's also what's the most important thing in the Mighty Ducks. You have to let's go with the teams. The Hawks, Cost Banks, which was originally a Hawk, became a Duck, got injured in the match because of 3 players, because Coach O'Reilly coached him to do that. And then you had Coach Bombay telling Charlie in the final shootout, no matter what happens, I am proud of you. And do your best. And he did win your match. But with Team Iceland, there was no character villain. The only thing you really hated about Team Iceland was their coach, who injured Coach Bombay's leg in a expedition, one-on-one match. And again, you're talking about what most impacted. Julie Gaffney, you agree, was the best goalie. But they never used Julie Gaffney the whole time, except for that one time we saw. And then, of course, it's more predictability because we all know if they're bringing her out after we saw her for basically 2 times in the ring, that she was going to save a shot. There was no guarantee that Charlie was going to make the match because a single movie does not mean a franchise will be born.
But here's the thing. I'm not arguing about who is the best coach or what is the best game that they ever played. I'm saying that the final shootout is a bigger moment. And it just is on an international scale. They had to make the right series of plays. They had to make the right series of calls at that moment. Taking out your goalie who was having a bad time and putting in a new goalie with faster hands is just the objectively correct decision.
I concede with that? They were both even. Both Iceland and USA were even. And Goldberg only missed 1 shot, just like Team Iceland only missed 1 shot. I mean, they only captured 1 shot.
They had to retie the game to get to they had to get to the shootout. And so by that time, their goalie had already done a full load of work. And so they took him out to bring in a fresh goalie with fast hands. And not only that,
your movie is very predictable. Do you want to keep it even? There was no chance that our movie, the first Mighty Ducks movie, it could have been just a standalone movie, and it would have been a great moment, like Cool Runnings, the movie, where they even lost at the end.
But they kept
yours
going.
Is so predictable, where you know the Ducks were going to win no matter what.
Yep, they kept going, and there is no certainty that they could have kept winning. In fact, the odds were cosmically against the Ducks, against a bigger and stronger and
Cool Runnings
faster
yet?
team. Yes, I've seen Cool Runnings. It's irrelevant.
I'm talking about a sequel.
Yeah, what about it? What about it?
It's the impact. Your movie is so predictable because you know the Mighty Ducks were going to win because of how successful my movie was in that moment.
You don't know that they're going to win because they are stuck in an even worse position against the Icelandic team. It's not just a 50-50. It's 50-50 for 5 shots on both teams.
Time. Okay, Alex, we're going to start with you on closings. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
It is my understanding that moments in sports are more monumental the less likely they are to happen. It's about the odds. You are not as likely to win a worldwide competition compared to a city or a statewide competition. You are less likely to win if you are the objectively smaller and nicer team. Telling the kid that's already not the best player to not worry if he makes the final shot sure is a weird way to motivate a kid. Don't worry, we're all going to Pizza Hut anyways. But getting the best shooters, getting the best goalie in position, getting the right information to those players so they can make those plays is what coaching hockey and really what sports is all about. While there is a moral lesson in it doesn't matter if we win, most of the Ducks never hear or learn it. But all of the Ducks did win the Junior Goodwill Games in a shootout against Iceland in a heroic underdog performance, the best hockey moment in the series.
Time. Okay, we're going to move over to Richard. Richard, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
The first Mighty Ducks movie, Jordan Gambay coached District 5, they never won a match. And at the end, Coach Gambay learned all his lessons, learned who he was, coached Charlie to be the best player he was throughout the whole game. He won the final shot. D2 The Mighty Ducks was a great sequel, probably my favorite sequel. But the problem is, it was not as strong as the final shootout. Like, the final shootout of D2 was fun. But the fact is, it was not as strong as it was in the first movie. My opponent talked about, the best player doesn't always best player win. Julie Gaffney was the best goalie, but she did only appear twice. One time she got kicked out, and the other time in the final shot. If Gora Gabelli knows Julie was the best goalie, it should have been the whole match. The fact is, he only appeared the convenience. Charlie, the best match was the first one.
Okay. Let's go over to the judges.
How you doing, Mark?
Not sure.
That's fair.
I'm thinking.
At least once a week, I get a notification that someone liked my Mighty Ducks review.
Yeah, Tim, didn't you used to describe Gordon Bombay as the baddest motherfucker around?
It wasn't even that one. The review that I always get the likes on is when I just all it says is quack quack motherfucker. But yes, I do love Gordon Bombay with all my heart and soul. He is awesome. And yeah, I think it was my D2 review where I was like, Gordon Bombay is the baddest motherfucker to ever live. Like he is so fucking awesome.
Because I was watching a bunch of fandom matches. I was like, hey, why do you think Gordon Bombay is the baddest motherfucker? And you're like, have you seen the movies?
All right. Mark, you're kicking this one off.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't really sure where to go with this one. I'm still thinking about it. I think I'm just gonna stick to what was said. I'm gonna stick to what was said, even though this thing I see one of you guys bring up. And I'm going with Alex. I feel like I feel like we just kind of got in a bit of the weeds throughout this question. And I think I'm even though it feels weird to go with I go with somebody like who made the argument, what is the technical best sports moment, because we're in the biggest moment. Like, it's weird, but I think I am going to go with Alex on that one. Okay, like it was a bigger moment. They won the Olympic Games, and like the save was a thrilling moment. And I think I'm just going to go with that.
All right, Payson.
Yeah, I appreciate what Alex was trying to do of going for the best, like, pure sports moment. But I think Richard was the one that really got to the weeds of what the question was of what is the best hockey moment. And I think Richard did a great job of showing, hey, other things that have been built up through the film lead up to this moment. And I do think it was fair to value that in. I think Richard did a great job at saying that, hey, the team that the Ducks play in D2, we don't really care about them, and Alex didn't really do anything to really dissuade that argument. I kind of loved that final point that Richard made in the final round of, hey, if your character was the best goalie, then why wasn't she there the entire time? And I think that was a fun little stinger at the end. Wasn't expecting Cool Runnings to be brought up as much as it was tonight, but Richard does get my point.
I went with Alex.
Okay.
Sorry, Payson. We shot a match the other night where I was on the opposite of Robert and Mark every question. So so don't worry about it. I am a little in between you guys. I'm not purely going with Alex because of what Mark said, where it's just like the bigger and everything. But I think that the question is, what is the best hockey moment? And Richard spent a lot of time talking about the movies and why the characters in the movies are good and why the characters in his scene, it's less effective this way, and it would have been more effective if they had done this, and blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to hear the two scenes. What is the more exciting, the better hockey scene? And Alex painted a picture of an exciting 5v5 shootout. You got a goalie with crazy hands. And I like the first movie the best. I like Richard's scene, but I think Alex did a good job and almost he falsely a little bit. I think he undercut the messaging of the movie there. But I love that moment with Bombay and Charlie at the end. But I think Alex did a smart thing of being like, you're just gonna tell a kid, like, don't worry if you suck. Like, he kind of like punched that, and I was like, yeah, like, okay. So I gave it to Alex, which means that he's up 2-1. So both players hitting their opponent's questions so far. Very exciting. Very exciting. We're gonna get into the final question, prep question. This was drafted by Alex in the category of Galaxy Quests. I'm looking forward to this one. Your question is, what is the coolest action scene in a Galaxy Quests movie? Alex, because you drafted this, you get to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
What gets you excited about a great action scene? For me, it is knowing that I'm about to see the height of the storytelling. Everything has been building to this. The moment is now. This is what people are going to get out of their chairs for. This is what they're going to make reaction videos of. This is what they're going to put in their top 10s. This is what they're going to leave remembering. For Galaxy Quest and Star Wars specifically, Vader's final rampage in Rogue One is the peak of what I'm talking about. The Dark Lord of the Sith, at the height of his power, mowing down a battalion of rebels, and one of them has the information he wants. They can't let him have the disc. It's a desperate struggle. We have exactly one shot. The disc has to get off the ship. Time is ticking down. The Dark Lord is coming. Can we get out of this alive?
Time. Okay. Let's move over to Richard. Richard, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
I agree, Alex. The evil empire is strong as hell. What can we do? We have Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus the Emperor, the Dark Sith, the people don't know who it is, supposedly, versus the evil Darth Maul. And that action sequence is one of the best action sequence we've seen in Star Wars history. Yes, it is the prequel. No one likes the sequel. But when you look back at the original trilogy, lightsaber action was kind of boring and dull and stalling. Whereas we saw versus the Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi scene versus Darth Maul scene was so intricate and amazing and acrobatic that we cannot question how great this scene is. It's the best in the prequels, and that's why it's the best, because Rogue One sucks. Done.
Sorry, I just wasn't expecting that. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
This is yours too.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan against Darth Maul. It is good. I would say that it would be more tense if it was the first time that they had fought him, and they'd fought him before. They had roughly kind of figured out this is the bad guy. It's also a scene so exciting that they cut away from it multiple times to follow a little kid flying around without controls. That's how exciting Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon against Darth Maul is. I also think, just on an action level, on like a storytelling level, I've always found it really funny that the good guys have the 2-man advantage on the bad guy. So like the bad guy's kind of the underdog, and that really undercuts the kind of tension for it, I think.
Okay, let's talk with yours. Darth Vader, we saw from the original trilogy. was supposed to be the big bad in that movie. Do you agree?
In Rogue One?
No. In the original trilogy, Darth Vader was the big bad.
No, Sidious was.
No, you do not know Sidious. In like the original trilogy, Darth Vader was the big bad.
Nope,
You
Sidious
saw
was. 'Cause
Sidious like
you
a couple of
redeemed
times in the last movie.
because you redeemed
The
Vader to get
fact is,
serious to get
your
Sidious.
movie in Rogue One show him how powerful he was. It was a great scene in Rogue One, but the fact is, he struggled with an old man of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kind of struggled with Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy, and you saw how bad he was in Rogue One. Which, by the way, Rogue One in The New Hope, even in Empire Strikes Back, was more than what 5-6 years. And you wonder what happened to him in Rogue One that he couldn't be as powerful as he was in Rogue One. Whereas you can imagine how powerful it was back then, how the Sith and Qui-Gon, how Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan had to struggle with the Sith because how badass their powerful was. It hurt Darth Vader's character in the original trilogy because of Rogue One, of how weak he really was and simple.
So I don't think the comparison is fair because Luke Skywalker was a fully trained. Hang on, Luke Skywalker is a fully trained Force a sensitive individual. He's a Force
By
user. It's
who?
Force user. Hang on, it's a Force user against a Force user. So at odds, like these two are perhaps on relatively on the same terms, right? Like in theory, these two
No, not
are
even
on the
close.
same
But go
terms.
on.
These two should be around on the same terms, which Yoda confirmed. He's saying that look, you are ready to face Vader. It's time for you to do this. He can take Vader, right? So a master and apprentice taking on a 2-on-1, the apprentice, is bad sport from the Jedi.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon have had multiple, I would say 8 to 20 years of Jedi training to take on Darth Maul. We don't know how long. He's probably just as similar as dark training to be Sith, whereas Luke Skywalker had maybe a year and a half, maybe even 5 years of
It's
training by one. No, not even training. By what? One time with Obi-Wan Kenobi and then
it's
Yoda?
yeah, it's several years. There's a time jump, but what I'm saying is that the odds are relatively equal. Vader showing up through the mist of night to take on a bunch of nonsense,
Okay.
of just
I'm
random
also
battalion of rebel
I'm also
soldiers.
talking about the
It's not
impact
a
of
fair
our fight
playing
scenes
ground.
that
He
could
just mows them down like the grass,
have.
and he's not just doing it just slap 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 slap. It's not like that. He is pushing guys to the ceiling. He's carving through guys. People
Yeah,
are running
I'm
in
gonna stop
fear
you right
from
there.
him.
Yeah, he's running through that, and in the time gaps of your movies, what would hurt the original trilogy and the prequels, what makes more sense? If he can do that in Rogue One, why couldn't you do that in New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, or even The Return of the Jedi?
Because he
Whereas
was
it
afraid.
makes sense
He
for
does
my
do it.
character.
He toys around with Luke in A New Hope, and he outright like very easily
No,
murders
he
Qui-Gon
doesn't
Jinn.
know.
He was not trying
He
at all
doesn't
in
know
those
Luke is his
encounters.
son in the New Hope.
He only loses to Luke in the third installment of the original trilogy, but it's irrelevant.
Oh, we'll figure it out in the closing, I guess.
Okay. We're gonna start with Richard for closings. Richard, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Best action sequence can also make what can save the original movies from their timeline. It makes sense for the prequels, for the Amazing Jedi's, to be able to sense the Sith are powerful. You see the best acrobatic stunts you ever seen, and it caused quite a death. The problem with Alex's choice is it hurts Darth Vader's character in a whole, because he was so strong. He could, hurt people easily, left and right, have so much acrobatic stunts. But when it comes to New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Empire Sith, he doesn't learn. He has no acrobat at that point. And it was only like 5 to 6 years, not even that, probably even less. Why makes mine the best experience? Because not only it looks cooler, but it makes more sense realistically in the years to come. It does not damage my original franchise history. And that's the problem with his choice. It hurts the original choices clearly. Done.
Time. Okay. Let's move over to Alex. Alex, you have 1 minute when you start talking to close your argument.
I've literally lost on this point before. Vader's rampage is the dramatic height of the movie and also the coolest aspect of the entire movie. It is the entire struggle distilled into one scene. The cosmic struggle of good versus overwhelming odds. Obi and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul is good, but it's muddled down by cutting away. It's muddled down by lulls in the action. And by, frankly, having the man advantage. I can't believe they won a 2-on-1 fight on relatively equal terms because they're all Force users. Good job, Jedi. But the arrival of the final boss and the carnage he can leave in his wake against mere humans makes people stand out of their seats and gives them that moment of awe every single time. You can see it in reaction videos across the internet. Everyone reacts very strongly to this one scene.
Time. Okay. Whoo! That got heated. I love it.
Sorry if I interrupted you, Alex. I didn't mean to.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Payson's doing some thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. This was interesting. This went in a lot of ways I wasn't expecting. Mark said it last time. We got lost in the weeds a little bit. I think we really got lost in the weeds on this one. We didn't talk about the action scenes a lot. Openings and closings from both players, excellent. Perfectly encapsulated to me on both ends why their scene was great and why they didn't like the other scene. The middle was a blah. And in my opinion, this was it doesn't happen that often anymore, but when it does, it's very apparent. And I think this was one of those moments. I went with Alex. I think it was a moment of Alex got Richard to fight a fight that we were not arguing. Alex got Richard to fight is Darth Vader a wimp or a badass in the original trilogy? Did Luke train enough? Did Vader, I don't know, against old Obi-Wan? Like, Richard kind of invited it. I think Richard was trying to make a point, and a point that I think is valid, but Alex got Richard to cling to that, and we spent almost no time on Richard's argument because of it. I think Alex expertly distracted Richard from the point, and Alex was able to come in and throw his haymakers. So I went with Alex. Mark, your thoughts?
Gotta tell you, I ended up going with Richard for, weirdly enough, I think the same reasons that Tim just brought up.
That's fair. Okay.
Because, and this maybe could have been where I saw it. I felt like Richard got Alex to kind of deter it. I'm not sure where it started. It felt like Richard brought up points that got Alex to answer other points about things in this fight that had nothing to do with what the question was about. And I think also a little bit in the closing, maybe it was there and I just didn't find it. I feel like also Richard brought up a lot of points in his closing that Alex did not address in the closing at all. So like I think also it's slim, but I don't know. That's the way I saw it. Yeah.
That's fair. Payson, you're deciding this one. Do we have a winner, or are we going to the bonus round?
I'll drop the suspense. We have a winner. Yeah, I'm with Mark and Tim. I think this was a very shabby argument from both players, where I think we went in a bunch of different directions and was not talking a ton about how cool the action scene was. I think Richard spent a lot of time saying how Alex's scene doesn't make sense. Look, I can strap 2 chainsaws to the top of my car. It might not make sense. It looks fucking cool. And that is what he should have been arguing there. And I think Richard didn't do a great job at saying why that wasn't there. Alex didn't do like the best job either, but he at least, I heard him say like, hey, Vader isn't necessarily like just chopping the heads off all these rebels. He is finding unique ways to kill them all. And I think that was more cool. And I didn't really hear a ton as to why, from Richard, why his scene is cool. So yeah, Alex wins.
All right. That means your winner is Alex Martinez. We're going to do some post-match interviews. We're going to start by talking to Richard. Richard, pretty much split a lot of this match. Other than the first question, it was split, and it was a really close one the whole way. I feel like you're one of the best unlucky players we have in the league, where you keep going up against people who are also very good and just get that little bit of luck on the end. So I feel bad for you, but take solace in the fact that I do think you are very good at this. How did you feel the match went today?
I mean, I had best that I could. I was also trying to be very nice to the other opponent. Like, I don't want to split scenes, but it's so hard to argue points with such limited time in the second round. But Alex did a great job. I had a lot of points planned, but, when you're in live, it's really hard to do. Because, you're trying to battle what their points is. You're forgetting what your points are. But I had a great time. I want to come back. I love doing this. Let me come back. And if you have a geek division, bring me back in the geek division. Singles, I'm down.
This is the division.
This is the place to ask, and that is what I will say. Like,
I am down to come back whenever you want. I don't want to retire. Let me keep doing this, and I will win matches eventually.
I only retire people that make me upset. And Richard, you do not make me upset. You're a very nice person. Very nice and very cordial player, which is good. It's a good thing to have. So, Richard, congrats on a match well played. We will see you again. I don't know who your next opponent is going to be, but whoever it is, I'm sure it'll be a good one. So,
I have a category for Saw.
Oh,
yeah, I love the Saw movies. I'm doing that, except for Spectre, but that sucks. But I'll put Saw in there. I promise.
That's fair. Thanks, Richard. Let's bring in the winner, Alex. Another win on the record. You are now 3-3, so you are even. And doing quite well at this. Like I said, I think Richard is also very good, but you had the step up today. Your thoughts on how the match went? Ooh, he might be frozen.
Oh no.
He's very silent and very calm about the way that this went. There he is. Alex, how did you think it went?
It went fine. The delay of when we scheduled it originally to when we filmed it caused some mental bleh. So it's trying to remember what happens in It's a Wonderful Life again. I don't remember any of this. But I'm happy to have the win. Richard's really hard to debate against because I'm very happy to follow the rabbit hole of the argument, and that will lose me points as demonstrated. But I try to make it fun and make it interesting by choosing these weird arguments, and sometimes it works out. About half the time it works out, actually, if you look at the math.
Yeah, Alex, I do have news for you. You are going to get another match. You're going to have a match very soon. And do I want to tell you who you're going to play? You know what? Actually, I'm going to keep that a surprise. We're going to we're going to see you back sooner than you think, Alex. You'll be back very soon and in a title picture. So I'm looking forward to it.
God.
I know. Alex, congrats on the win. It was really exciting. We'll see you next time. But that's going to do it for us today at Fanzone Debate. Thank you to Mark and thank you to first-time judge Payson. You did a great job, Payson. Thank you to Richard and Alex. As always, thank you to all the people who help make the thing run. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you next time with another great match. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, next week, we have a debate that I referenced earlier, Brian versus Nazario. Tim might be on the wrong side of history. We'll see you with that one next week. It's very exciting. Be sure to check that one out. But until then, have a great night. We'll see you next time.
There we go. Thanks a lot. Come again.
Hey, I won't forget what you've done for me here today.
I would prefer that you do.